The arrival. Jack Davidson stared out the viewport of the transport shuttle, his heart racing as the gleaming spires of the Galactic Academy came into view. The massive space station hung in orbit around a swirling gas giant, its crystalline structures refracting starlight in a dazzling display. After months of rigorous testing and preparation, he was about to become the first human to attend the most prestigious learning institution in the known universe. As the shuttle docked, Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He knew he'd be an oddity here. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic stage, having only achieved faster-than-light travel a decade ago. Most species still viewed Earth as a backwater planet, barely worth noticing. Jack was determined to change that perception. The airlock hissed open, and Jack stepped into the bustling arrival terminal. He was immediately struck by the cacophony of sounds, smells, and sights that assaulted his senses. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved about, some floating, others slithering, a few even phasing in and out of visible reality. A holographic guide materialized before him, its form shifting through various alien species before settling on a vaguely humanoid shape. "Welcome, Jack Davidson of Earth, to the Galactic Academy. Please proceed to Orientation Hall Alpha 7 for your introductory briefing." Jack nodded, hefting his duffel bag over his shoulder and following the glowing path that appeared on the floor. As he walked, he couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers that followed him. Some aliens recoiled as he passed, while others leaned in, seemingly fascinated by his appearance. "Is that a Deathworlder?" he heard one jellyfish-like being burble to its companion. "Impossible," came the reply from a towering insectoid. "It looks so squishy. How could it survive on a death world?" Jack suppressed a grin. If they only knew. The orientation hall was a vast amphitheater, filled with hundreds of new students from across the galaxy. Jack found an empty seat near the back, trying not to draw too much attention. A holographic projection of a being Jack recognized as an Arcturian, all shimmering energy and pulsing light, appeared at the center of the room. "Greetings, new students." The being's thoughts resonated directly in Jack's mind. "I am Dean Zorax. On behalf of the Galactic Academy, I welcome you to what will undoubtedly be the most challenging and rewarding experience of your lives." The dean went on to explain the basics of life at the Academy, class schedules, living arrangements, and the myriad resources available to students. Jack listened intently, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Glancing around, he noticed several of his fellow students eyeing him with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. As the orientation concluded, students began to file out of the hall. Jack stood, ready to find his assigned quarters, when a voice called out behind him, "Hey, Earthling, hold up a minute." Jack turned to see a small, furry creature bounding towards him on 6 legs. It had large, luminous eyes and antennae that twitched excitedly. "I'm Physic," the creature chirped, coming to a stop in front of Jack. "I've never met a human before. Is it true you're from a Class 12 death world?" Jack blinked, caught off guard by the alien's enthusiasm. "Oh yeah, that's right. Though we just call it Earth. I'm Jack, by the way." Physic's antennae quivered. "Fascinating. How do you manage to survive in such harsh conditions? Your exoskeleton looks so soft." "Well, we don't have exoskeletons," Jack explained, realizing he'd have to get used to such questions. "We have internal skeletons and muscles." A look of horror passed over Physic's fuzzy face. "You mean your bones are inside your body? How horrifyingly inefficient." Before Jack could respond, another voice cut in, this one deep and resonant, like the rumble of distant thunder. "Leave the poor creature alone. Physic, can't you see you're making it uncomfortable?" A massive being lumbered up, its body seemingly composed of living stone. Cracks along its surface glowed with inner fire, and 2 eyes like molten pools regarded Jack with what he hoped was kindness. "I am Grockner of the Lithosians," the stone being rumbled. "Pay no mind to Physic. Some of us here understand what it means to come from a world that others consider challenging. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thanks, Grockner. It's good to know I'm not the only one who might stick out a bit here. Grockner's craggy face split in what Jack assumed was a smile. Indeed. Come, let us find our quarters. I have a feeling this year will be full of surprises for all of us. As they made their way out of the orientation hall, Jack couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. He was an ambassador for his entire species here, carrying the hopes and dreams of humanity on his shoulders. But looking at the diverse beings around him, from the enthusiastic Physic to the steadfast Grockner, he realized that perhaps they weren't so different after all. Little did Jack know that his time at the Galactic Academy would not only challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and his place in the universe, but would also fundamentally change how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. The adventure was only just beginning, and the true tests, both academic and personal, lay ahead. As they approached the student quarters, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the precipice of something monumental. Whatever challenges awaited him, he was determined to face them head-on and to show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of. The challenge. The first few weeks at the Galactic Academy passed in a blur of new experiences for Jack. He marveled at the advanced technology that permeated every aspect of life on the station, from the matter replicators that provided meals to the quantum computers used in classes. Despite the initial wariness of some students, Jack found himself slowly integrating into the diverse community, thanks in large part to his newfound friends, Physic and Grockner. It was during an interspecies biology class that things took an unexpected turn. Professor Zixnax, a towering arachnoid being with iridescent eyes, announced a special project. Students, the professor's voice reverberated through the classroom. Today we begin a series of practical tests to evaluate the capabilities of various species represented here at the Academy. This will not only further our understanding of xenobiology, but also challenge some of our preconceived notions about different life forms. A ripple of excitement passed through the class. Jack felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. He knew this could be his chance to show what humans were truly capable of, but he also worried about standing out too much. Professor Zixnax continued, "We will start with basic physical assessments and move on to more complex challenges. Remember, the goal is not competition, but understanding. Now let's begin with a simple test of strength." The professor gestured to a device in the center of the room, a large cylindrical object with various attachments. "This is a universal dynamometer," Zixnax explained. "It will measure force exertion across multiple types of movement. Who would like to go first?" A hulking Jovian, whose gaseous body was contained within a pressurized suit, floated forward. "I will, Professor," it rumbled. The Jovian wrapped its appendages around the device, and with a grunt of effort, the readout displayed an impressive number. The class murmured in appreciation. Several other students took their turns, each demonstrating the unique strengths of their species. Grockner, unsurprisingly, showed immense crushing force. Physic, despite its small size, displayed remarkable tensile strength. Finally, it was Jack's turn. As he approached the device, he could hear the whispers. "The squishy one. This should be amusing. Be gentle with it, Professor. We wouldn't want to break the poor thing." Jack gritted his teeth, reminding himself to stay calm. He grasped the handles of the dynamometer, took a deep breath, and began to exert force. The numbers on the readout began to climb, quickly surpassing what many considered would be Jack's limit. The whispers turned to gasps as the display kept rising, eventually settling on a number that put Jack in the top tier of the class. Professor Zixnax's eyes flickered with interest. "Impressive, Mr. Davidson. It seems the low-gravity environment of our station isn't holding you back. Perhaps we should adjust for your species' high-gravity origins in future tests." Jack nodded, trying to hide his satisfaction as he returned to his seat. Physic was practically vibrating with excitement. By the cosmic winds, Jack. That was amazing. How did you do that? Jack shrugged. That's just normal human strength. We evolved to handle Earth's gravity, which is higher than most habitable planets. Grocknar rumbled thoughtfully. It seems we may have underestimated your species, Jack. I look forward to seeing what else you can do. The next test involved reaction speeds. Students were asked to catch small, fast-moving drones that zipped around the room. Many struggled, their appendages too slow or unwieldy to grasp the agile machines. When it was Jack's turn, he took a deep breath, focusing his senses. As the drones launched, his hands moved with startling speed and precision. One by one, he plucked the drones out of the air, his movements fluid and graceful. The room fell silent as Jack caught the last drone, a new record displayed on the scoreboard. Professor Zixnax's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense interest. Extraordinary, Mr. Davidson. Your hand-eye coordination and reflexes are quite remarkable. Would you mind explaining how you achieved this level of performance? Jack, slightly out of breath, shrugged. Honestly, Professor, this is pretty standard for humans. We play sports and games that require quick reflexes. This isn't too different from catching a baseball or playing video games. The professor's eyes narrowed. Games? You develop these abilities through recreational activities. Well, yeah, Jack replied, suddenly aware of how strange this might sound to non-humans. A lot of our sports involve throwing, catching, or hitting fast-moving objects, and our digital entertainment often requires quick reaction times. The class erupted in murmurs. The idea of developing such skills through play seemed to both fascinate and disturb many of the students. As the day progressed, the tests became more varied. Endurance runs, problem-solving under pressure, adaptability to different environments. In each challenge, Jack's performance continued to surprise and sometimes alarm his classmates. During a test of heat resistance, Jack casually mentioned that humans often voluntarily expose themselves to high temperatures in saunas or hot springs for relaxation. This revelation caused Physic to faint and had to be revived by the class medic. By the end of the day, the atmosphere in the classroom had shifted noticeably. The initial amusement and condescension towards the squishy human had given way to a mix of awe, curiosity, and in some cases, thinly veiled fear. As they left the classroom, Grocknar placed a stony hand on Jack's shoulder. You've given us much to think about, friend Jack. It seems your species has depths we never imagined. Jack nodded, feeling a strange mix of pride and unease. He had wanted to prove humanity's worth, but he hadn't expected such a dramatic shift in perception. As he walked back to his quarters, he couldn't help but wonder, what would happen when the rest of the Academy, and by extension, the galaxy, realized the true potential of humanity? Little did Jack know, the true tests of his abilities, and the consequences of their revelation, were yet to come. The challenges he faced today were just the beginning of a journey that would reshape galactic perceptions and potentially change the course of interstellar relations forever. The revelation. Word of Jack's performances in Professor Zixnax's class spread through the Galactic Academy like wildfire. Suddenly, this squishy human was the talk of the station. Wherever Jack went, he found himself the center of attention. Sometimes welcomed, sometimes not. One morning, as Jack entered the Academy's vast communal dining hall, he noticed the conversations around him hushing to whispers. Eyes, stalks, and sensory organs of all kinds turned to watch him as he made his way to the food replicators. Jack, over here. Physic's cheerful voice cut through the tense atmosphere. Jack gratefully joined his friend at a table, where Grocknar was already seated, his stony form taking up most of one bench. How are you holding up? Grocknar rumbled, concern evident in his molten eyes. Jack sighed, poking at his replicated Earth breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast, a taste of home in this alien environment. Honestly, it's a bit overwhelming. I didn't expect to cause such a stir. Physic's antennae twitched sympathetically. Well, you have to understand, Jack. Many species here have never encountered a Deathworlder before. The abilities you've shown, they're rather intimidating to some. But I'm not trying to intimidate anyone, Jack protested. I'm just being myself. And that, Grockner said sagely, is precisely what fascinates and frightens them. If what you've shown is just a normal human's capabilities, they wonder what your species might be capable of when truly pushed. Before Jack could respond, a commotion at the entrance to the dining hall caught everyone's attention. A group of senior students entered, led by a tall, serpentine being with gleaming scales and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. That's Shurik, Physic whispered, his fur standing on end. He's from a species known for their mental abilities. Rumor has it he can read minds. The serpentine alien slithered directly towards their table, his entourage following close behind. The dining hall fell silent as Shurik stopped in front of Jack, towering over him. So, Shurik hissed, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. This is the human who's been causing such a fuss. I must say, I expected something more impressive. Jack stood slowly, meeting Shurek's gaze. He could feel the tension in the room, thick enough to cut with a knife. I'm not here to impress anyone, he said calmly. I'm just here to learn, like everyone else. Shurek's eyes narrowed. Learn? Or perhaps conquer? We've all heard the stories of your kind. A species that thrives on conflict, that turns death worlds into cradles of civilization. How do we know you're not here as some sort of advanced scout? Jack felt a flicker of anger, but he pushed it down. He knew he had to handle this carefully. That's not who we are, he said firmly. Humanity is curious, yes. We seek challenges, we push boundaries. But we're not conquerors. We're explorers, inventors, dreamers. We came here to join the galactic community, not to dominate it. Shurik leaned in close, his serpentine face inches from Jack's. Pretty words, human. But I wonder, what would we see if we looked into the depths of your mind? What secrets are you hiding? Suddenly, Jack felt a pressure in his head, like a probing finger pushing against his thoughts. He realized with a start that Shurik was attempting to read his mind. Without thinking, Jack's mental defenses, honed through years of meditation and cognitive training that were standard for all human space travelers, snapped into place. Shurik reeled back as if struck, his eyes wide with shock. Impossible, he hissed. Your mind. It's shielded. The dining hall erupted in gasps and excited chatter. Mental shielding was a rare ability, possessed by only a few of the most advanced species in the galaxy. The fact that a human, a newcomer to the galactic stage, could repel a mental probe was unprecedented. Jack, realizing the implications of what had just happened, tried to defuse the situation. Look, I don't want any trouble. This ability, it's just something we developed to protect our privacy. It's not meant to be a weapon or a threat. But the damage was done. Shurik, his composure shattered, backed away. This isn't over, human, he spat, before slithering rapidly out of the dining hall, his entourage scrambling to keep up. As the excited babble in the hall rose to a fever pitch, Jack slumped back into his seat, his appetite gone. Physic and Grockner stared at him with a mixture of awe and concern. Jack, Physic said slowly, I think you might have just changed everything. Grockner nodded solemnly. The ability to shield one's mind is significant. Many species will see this as a game-changer in galactic politics. Jack put his head in his hands. But that's not what I wanted. I'm not here to change the balance of power or whatever they think this means. I'm just trying to fit in, to show that humans can be part of this community. I fear, friend Jack, Grockner rumbled, that fitting in may no longer be an option. You've revealed capabilities that many thought impossible for such a young species. The question now is, what will you do with this revelation? As Jack pondered Grockner's words, an announcement blared over the station's communication system. Attention all students and faculty. Due to recent developments, an emergency assembly has been called. All are to report to the Grand Auditorium immediately. Jack's heart sank. He knew, without a doubt, that this assembly was about him, about humanity. As he stood to join the throng of students flowing towards the auditorium, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the brink of a momentous change. Whatever happened in that auditorium would determine not just his future at the academy, but potentially the future of human-alien relations for years to come. With a deep breath, Jack stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He was no longer just a student. He had become an unwitting ambassador for his entire species, and he was determined to show the galaxy the true heart of humanity, no matter the cost. The crisis. The Grand Auditorium of the Galactic Academy was a marvel of alien architecture, a vast dome that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As Jack entered alongside thousands of other students, he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. The air thrummed with tension and anticipation. At the center of the auditorium, a holographic projection flickered to life, resolving into the imposing form of Dean Zorax. The Arcturian's energy form pulsed with an intensity Jack had never seen before. Students, faculty, honored guests, the Dean's thoughts resonated through the minds of all present. We face an unprecedented situation. The recent revelations about human capabilities have raised questions and concerns throughout the galactic community. Jack's stomach churned as murmurs rippled through the crowd. He felt physics' reassuring paw on his arm and Gruckner's steady presence behind him. However, the Dean continued, "We must remember that the Galactic Academy stands for understanding, for the pursuit of knowledge that transcends individual species. We must approach this situation with open minds and..." Suddenly, the Dean's form flickered and vanished. The lights in the auditorium dimmed, plunging the vast space into darkness. Panic began to spread through the crowd as confused voices rose in a cacophony of alien languages. Then, a new voice boomed through the auditorium, harsh, grating, and filled with malice. "Citizens of the galaxy, hear us. We are the Purifiers, and we have come to cleanse this institution of the human taint." Gasps of shock and fear echoed through the darkness. Jack's mind raced. The Purifiers. He'd heard whispers about this extremist group that believed in maintaining the purity of galactic civilization by excluding lesser species. For too long, the voice continued, "We have allowed primitive species to infest our great institutions. But no more. The humans, with their Deathworld adaptations and hidden abilities, pose too great a threat. We will eliminate this threat, starting with the human student among you." The lights flickered back to life, revealing a group of masked figures surrounding the central platform. They were armed with weapons Jack had never seen before, devices that pulsed with ominous energy. Jack Davidson, the leader of the Purifiers, called out, "Surrender yourself, or we will begin eliminating your fellow students one by one." Time seemed to slow for Jack. He looked around at the terrified faces of his classmates, beings from across the galaxy, each unique and valuable. He thought of Earth, of the hopes humanity had placed in this cultural exchange. He thought of his friends, Physic and Grockner, who had stood by him despite their differences. In that moment, Jack made a decision. He would not hide. He would not run. He would show these aliens, both friend and foe, what humanity truly stood for. "I'm here," Jack called out, his voice steady as he stepped forward. "But if you think I'm going to surrender, you clearly haven't been paying attention to those human capabilities you're so afraid of." The leader of the Purifiers laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Brave words, little human, but bravery won't save you from our neuron disruptors. One blast, and your precious human mind will be wiped clean." Jack's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. The Purifiers were focused on him, their weapons trained on his position. That meant they weren't watching the rest of the auditorium. He just needed to buy some time. "Before you do anything rash," Jack said, slowly moving towards the central platform, "let me ask you something. Do you know why humans have survived on a death world? Why we've developed these abilities that frighten you so much?" The Purifier leader tilted his head, curiosity momentarily overriding his hostility. "Enlighten us, human." Jack took a deep breath. "It's not because we're conquerors. It's not because we're violent or aggressive. It's because we adapt. We learn. We work together to overcome challenges. And right now, you're just another challenge." As he spoke, Jack's enhanced hearing picked up subtle movements in the auditorium. He risked a glance and saw Grucknar slowly maneuvering his massive stone body into position behind the Purifiers. Physic was scurrying along the ceiling, using his species' natural climbing abilities to approach from above. "You see," Jack continued, drawing the Purifiers' full attention, "humans don't just adapt physically. We adapt socially. We form bonds, build communities, and in the short time I've been here, I've become part of a community that spans the galaxy." The leader scoffed. "Pretty words, but they want." At that moment, several things happened at once. Grucknar let out a thunderous roar, charging forward and slamming into the Purifiers from behind. Physic dropped from the ceiling, landing on the leader's head and covering his eyes with his furry body. And Jack, calling upon every ounce of his human speed and strength, leaped into action. What followed was a blur of motion. Jack dodged energy blasts, using his reflexes honed by years of sports and video games to stay one step ahead. He disarmed one Purifier with a move that would have made his high school wrestling coach proud, then used the alien's own weapon against his comrades. Students from across the auditorium joined the fray. A Jovian used its gaseous body to confuse and disorient the Purifiers. A group of photosynthetic beings emitted blinding flashes of light. Even Surik, the serpentine telepath who had confronted Jack earlier, used his mental abilities to muddle the thoughts of the attackers. In a matter of minutes, it was over. The Purifiers lay subdued, their weapons confiscated, surrounded by a diverse group of students from across the galaxy. As security forces finally arrived to take control of the situation, Jack found himself at the center of a very different kind of attention. Physic bounced excitedly around him. "By the cosmic winds, Jack, that was incredible. The way you moved, the way you fought, it was like something out of an action holovid." Grucknar placed a heavy stone hand on Jack's shoulder. "You fought bravely, friend Jack. But more importantly, you showed wisdom. You united us, reminded us that our strength lies in our diversity." As the adrenaline of the moment began to fade, Jack looked around at the faces of his fellow students. Where there had been fear and suspicion before, he now saw respect, admiration, and curiosity. He had shown them the true face of humanity, not just its physical capabilities, but its heart and spirit. The holo-projector flickered back to life, and Dean Zorax's form appeared once more. The Arcturian's energy pulsed with what Jack could only interpret as pride. Students, faculty, and honored guests, the Dean's thoughts resonated. "We have just witnessed something extraordinary. In the face of hatred and fear, we have seen the very best of what our galactic community can be. And at the center of it all, we have seen the true potential of our human friends." As cheers erupted throughout the auditorium, Jack felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had come to the Galactic Academy hoping to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. Instead, he had done something far greater. He had helped forge a bond between species that transcended physical abilities or origins. The crisis was over, but Jack knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had seen what humanity could do, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 5. The Aftermath. In the days following the Purifier attack, the Galactic Academy buzzed with activity. Emergency meetings were held, security protocols were overhauled, and at the center of it all was Jack Davidson, the human student who had become an unlikely hero. Jack found himself summoned to a special session of the Academy's governing council. As he entered the chambers, he was struck by the diversity of beings present. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy were in attendance, their attention focused solely on him. Dean Zorax's energy form pulsed at the center of the room. "Jack Davidson, The dean's thoughts resonated. Your actions during the recent crisis have forced us to reevaluate many of our preconceptions. We owe you a debt of gratitude and an apology. Jack blinked in surprise. An apology, Dean? For what? A quantum collective representative, its form a shimmering cloud of possibility, spoke next. For underestimating your species, Mr. Davidson. For allowing fear and ignorance to cloud our judgment. We prided ourselves on our openness to new life forms, yet we failed to truly understand the potential of humanity. Indeed, rumbled a Lithosian elder, its rocky form resembling an ancient mountain. We saw your physical abilities and assumed aggression. We witnessed your mental shields and suspected deception. We were wrong. Jack felt a lump form in his throat. I don't know what to say. I'm just one human. I can't speak for my entire species. Perhaps not. Dean Zorax's thoughts gently prodded. But you have shown us something profound about humanity. Your ability to adapt, to form connections across species lines, to inspire unity in the face of adversity. These are traits that we now recognize as uniquely human strengths. The quantum collective representative shimmered with excitement. Mr. Davidson, we would like to propose a new initiative, a comprehensive cultural exchange program, with you as its first ambassador. We believe that by fostering greater understanding between humanity and the rest of the galactic community, we can build a stronger, more united future for all species. Jack's mind reeled at the implications. That's an incredible honor. But are you sure I'm the right person for this? I'm just a student. The Lithosian elder's laugh rumbled like an avalanche. Young human, it is precisely because you are a student that you are perfect for this role. You have shown us that there is much we can learn from each other, regardless of age or experience. As the meeting continued, Jack's thoughts drifted to his friends, to physics' boundless enthusiasm, Grocknar's steady wisdom, and even Susrik's newfound respect. He thought of the diverse group of students who had come together to defeat the Purifiers, each contributing their unique abilities to a common cause. When the council session ended, Jack stepped out into the corridors of the Galactic Academy with a new sense of purpose. The station no longer felt alien to him. It was becoming a second home, a place where the best of all species could come together in the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. As he walked, he overheard snippets of conversation from passing students. Did you hear? They're starting a new xenobiology course focused on Deathworld adaptations. I heard the human is going to teach a class on Earth sports. Can you imagine playing something called basketball in low gravity? My dormitory is organizing an Earth culture night. We're going to try something called pizza. Jack couldn't help but smile. The fear and suspicion that had initially greeted his arrival were giving way to genuine curiosity and excitement. Humanity's introduction to the galactic community hadn't been smooth, but it had opened doors that no one could have anticipated. As he rounded a corner, he saw Physic and Grocknar waiting for him. Physic bounced excitedly on his 6 legs, while Grocknar's molten eyes glowed with warmth. Jack, Physic chirped. We heard about the council meeting. Is it true? Are you going to be an ambassador for Earth? Jack nodded, still somewhat in awe of the idea. It looks that way. I'm not sure I'm ready for it, but I'll do my best. Grocknar's rumbling laugh shook the corridor. Friend Jack, if there's one thing you've taught us, it's that humans are capable of far more than anyone expects, even themselves. As they walked together towards the Academy's observation deck, Jack felt a sense of profound gratitude. He had come to this place hoping to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Instead, he had discovered the true strength of his species, not in physical prowess or mental abilities, but in the capacity to bring others together, to inspire cooperation and understanding across the vastness of space. The 3 friends stood before the massive viewport, gazing out at the swirling gas giant below and the star-strewn tapestry of space beyond. In that moment, Jack Davidson, student, reluctant hero, and now ambassador, knew that the greatest adventure of his life was just beginning. As the lights of distant stars twinkled before them, Jack realized that humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or as subjects, but as partners in the grand tapestry of galactic civilization. The shocking classroom test that had revealed human superpowers had done more than showcase physical abilities. It had unveiled the true power of the human spirit. And that, Jack knew, was the greatest superpower of all.